This is If My People, Bible reading, part 189, the second book of Corinthians. Paul has been spending a number of years around the area, and this is the second and the third visit with the Corinthians, and he's doing some corrections. That's what he does, and the reason Yeshua picked Paul was because he won't back down. Plus, he's a lawyer. I mean, he's got the language. He did not dawdle as a child, and so he went into the study with Gamaliel, and he found out the hard way that that was not all right. He was getting instruction from the Orthodox Judaism, which was very, very wrong, and he was corrected on the way to Damascus. He was corrected on the way to Tarsus, meaning he was going north. And so as a result of that, Second Corinthians language, when you read it, it's something, isn't it? So he's basically telling us the facts. One of the most disputed facts between Christians today is salvation. The rapture, we've gone over through that. That's one serious issue that has to be worked out ever since the 1830s. Still exists today, still believed by many. And then there's those who believe that there's a number of raptures. Well, there's going to be a rapture of all of us. All the Christians are going to be raptured up. Not only pre-rapture, but then there's mid, and then there's mid-wrath, and then there's post. Yet in Revelation, when we read it, the first fruits, when Yeshua comes, the first fruits are those who were beheaded, and they will rule and reign with Yeshua during the millennium. It makes that very, very clear. So for many of my friends who have the understanding and the faith that they, not the Christians, they, the shepherds, are all going to be raptured up, taken up, either supernaturally. Many of them believe there will be supernatural during the millennium. There will be regular humans and regular Christians, and there will be regular evil people in the millennium. And then at the end of the millennium comes the last hurrah for Hasatan. And then it's over for him. Then there is the great white throne judgment, which is the last judgment of all. And most do not believe what I'm telling you, that the living and the dead, the good and the bad, and the ugly, are all going to be taken up at the great white throne judgment. But let's see what Paul says. So let's go to chapter 5 in 2 Corinthians. And after you've read from chapter 1 up to all through 5, let's read verse 9. Let's do it. It goes like this. So, now this is Paul talking, so we make it our goal to please him. Who is him? The Father. Whether we are at home, in the body, that's right now, at home in the body, or away from it, living, dead, no longer in the body. Verse 10, so, for we must all appear before the judgment seat of Messiah, great white throne, that each one may receive what is due him for the things done while in the body, whether good or bad. Our comment, everyone is going to be judged. Everyone, even the good people, the super good people. Even though those were born and then they died an hour later. Everybody is going to be judged. Those who are the first fruit, beheaded ones. Doesn't say not, and also the ones that were not beheaded, who got saved and then lived a good Christian life. Doesn't say that, does it? What does Paul say? Paul says that Yeshua says this, because Yeshua is what Paul wrote. All those at the judgment see the Messiah, the good, the bad. There it is. If you plan on that, and I'm wrong, first of all, I'll say I'm sorry. I was wrong, but even if I was wrong, you will be blessed because you plan for the worst and you hope for the best. You can't lose that way. This is Torah. From here out, all Torah. Are you ready? Verse 20 in chapter 5. We are therefore Messiah's ambassadors, as though Elohim were making his appeal through us. We implore you on Messiah's behalf, be reconciled to Yahweh. Chapter 6, verse 1. Torah. As Elohim's fellow workers, we urge you not to receive Elohim's grace in vain. Don't take advantage of it. Grace is, we have the hope and the grace of eternal salvation. We don't have a guarantee of anything because we're going to be judged, good and the bad. Verse 14, do not be yoked together with unbelievers, for what do righteousness and wickedness have in common? Or what fellowship can light have with darkness? Paul's just got done telling them they've gone through all kinds of things. They've been beaten, they've been punched, hurt, jailed, harassed. All kinds of horrible things have happened to Paul and his partners, his companions. And yet, the love is still there. Verse 15, what harmony is there between Messiah and Hasatan? What does a believer have in common with unbelievers? The people in Corinth were still hanging around, still doing the Christmas shopping stuff, still doing the, today would be still doing Purim. It's not written. It's not from Yahweh. Still doing Hanukkah, not written, not given by Yahweh. Still doing Lent, not written, not directed by Yahweh. Still doing Easter bunnies, chasing them around, dressing up, looking with your funny hats and so forth. Not written, not approved at all. It's in violation, total violation against his appointed times at the same time, or usually on or about the same time. Halloween, dressing up and doing things you shouldn't be doing. Naming other and all other things the same. Christmas is a holiday. The fall feasts are holidays. Post office day is a holiday. There's hundreds and hundreds of holidays. And they're all called holidays. Wrong. Don't do those things. Therefore, verse 17, come out of them. Come out of her. Come out of them and be separate, says Yahweh. Touch no unclean thing, and I will receive you. Chapter 7, verse 1. Since we have these promises, dear friends, let us purify ourselves from everything that contaminates the body and the Ruach, perfecting holiness out of reverence for Elohim. It's a strong message. Corinthians is very strong. Chapter 8, verse 7, Torah. Be just as you excel in everything, in your faith, in your speech, in your knowledge, in complete earnestness, and in your charity. Love for us. See that you also excel in this grace of giving what you got. Tithing after taxes, tithing before taxes. Giving 10, 20, 30, 40, 50%. You give what's in your heart. There's no limit. There's no 1/10. Chapter 9, verse 7. And And most importantly, he says this, the widows and the orphans. And I don't know many widows. I only have known a few. Widows doesn't mean widows. It means much more than that. It means everyone that's aged, everyone that has no one, everyone that's just got nothing left. And the orphans, the young, the defenseless, the ones who don't have a mother and father, the ones that did have a mother and father, the ones have a mother and father and they're worthless mothers and fathers. They need all the help. The Big Brother, Big Sister program. I remember that back in the 1960s. Then he says in verse 7, chapter 9, each man should give what he has decided in his heart to give, not reluctantly or any other compulsion whatsoever, for Yahweh loves a cheerful giver. Chapter 10, 17, verse 17, Torah. But let him who boasts, boast in Yahweh. Do you remember that from Corinthians, 1 Corinthians? Well, there it is again. When you hear something again, it's important. Chapter 13, verse 5. Examine yourselves to see whether you are in the faith. Test yourselves. Do you not realize that Messiah Yeshua is in you? Unless, of course, you fail the test. Is it possible to fail the test? What did Paul just say? Verse 11. Finally, brothers, goodbye. Aim for perfection. Listen to my appeal. Be one of mine. That's how he started off his first letter. Live in peace, and the Elohim of love and Shalom, the Elohim of charity and Shalom, will be with you. May the grace of our Master Yeshua, the love of Elohim, and the fellowship of the Ruach Hadash be with you all. He repeats it. And he says, greet one another with a holy kiss. A holy kiss is just, it's on the cheeks. It's just holding close. All the saints send their greetings. Paul did return. And everything that he gave the Corinthians necessary to live a good life. You read the commands. You read the Torah. This is Torah. This is the easy to understand Torah that you don't get. You don't get it from other Bibles. You're not seeing that, are you? I wish you were. If it's one thing I've thought about before I sat down and wrote a Bible which took 14 years, and then put an audible one which took 149 hours, I think, continuous talking. It's 149 hours long to the blind. And then now to do this one, would have never thought in my life I could have accomplished what is being accomplished and what has already been done, plus working a full-time job for 40 years. I would have never said that it is possible. There's so much that you can do on your end. And if you want a copy of the lists, let me show you real quick here. If you can see that. You can't quite see it. It's a list of every single reading, every single part, from the beginning to end. And it's available for you. That way you can pick a topic. But we implore you to read the Bible from beginning to end, just like any other book, and it will come alive for you. Blessings.